Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Allow me to introduce myself. I have not been doing that in my previous videos, and I should be because it's just rude not to. My name is Stephanie, and these videos are not so much makeup tutorials as much as they are me doing my makeup while telling you what's on my mind. So if you're come here looking for a makeup tutorial, unfortunately, this is not the place for you. But if you just want to sit and chat with me for a while, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. So before we get into anything, I'm curious, how many of you sing in the shower? I don't always sing in the shower. By the way, I'm like really close to you today because I'm trying out something a little bit different. I'm really, as I mentioned in every single one of these videos, I'm really struggling with my lighting, my camera, because I just do this on my phone. I don't have a fancy camera, as I'm sure you can tell. Just, you know, every little thing about this is a struggle for me. And we will get into that a little bit more later, but I've given this a lot of thought. What did I give a lot of thought? You don't even know yet. You don't even know yet. You'll find out soon enough. But before we get started, so my question for you is, how many of you sing in the shower? Now, as I started telling you, I don't always sing in the shower. However, sometimes I get a song in my head and I cannot get it out of my head. And then I get in the shower and it just comes pouring out of my mouth. Not very loudly. I don't want to disturb everyone with my shower songs, but if you do sing in the shower, what was your shower song this morning? Mine this morning was All That Jazz, and I don't know why. It was probably something I saw on Twitter or Facebook or somewhere else. Somebody used a meme or something and that got into my head. The lighting is such an issue. It got into my head and it would not go away. So I got in the shower this morning and I started singing, you know, come on babe, why don't we paint the town and all that jazz. Gonna rouge my knees and roll my stockings down and all that jazz. Start the car, I know a whoopee spot where the gin is cold but the piano's hot. It's just a noisy hall where there's a nightly brawl and all that jazz, and so on and so forth. I think it's out of my system now. I'm not sure. I guess time will tell. But what was your shower song this morning? I really, really want to know. Moving along. So yesterday, I read something that really got me thinking, as I frequently do. Not always, but frequently. And it was in regard to this idea that we have, especially in, you know, American culture and westernized cultures, that we all have one big life mission. And until we know what that mission is, everything else is just filler material. And everyone has this purpose, okay? And we should all be spending time looking for this purpose. Now, it reminded me of a lot of things. It reminded me, first of all, of growing up in a church that, and I think most churches of the evangelical persuasion do this. I grew up in a church that was a strong believer in the idea that we are all given a purpose by God, like a singular vision for our lives. And it was our job to find out what that was. Which sounds easy enough, right? I mean, how hard can it be? However, when you're talking to someone who has a lot of anxiety, struggles with any feeling of self-worth, me again, and struggles with depression, hello, the idea that on top of all of that, you also have to find this grand vision for your life really set me up for a lot of feelings of inadequacy. And I spent a lot of years of my life looking for this grand vision I was supposed to have, this big mission that I was supposedly born to do, some mission I was supposed to fulfill, and I never found it. Now, after I was, I was raised in church, and then I went to Bible college, and I remember in Bible college a lot of people talking about how God had called them to do this or that. So again, there was this idea that we're all born with some grand purpose, and until that purpose is discovered, you're kind of just floating through life, not really doing anything of value. That was the idea that I walked away with. Whether that was the intention or not, I'm sure it's not. I would hope it's not. But that was the impression I had. So I had this idea for a very long time that there must be something I'm doing wrong, because I had no idea what my vision for my life was supposed to be, or, what purpose God had put me on this earth for. I had no idea. So I felt like I was a complete and utter failure. And I suspect a lot of people, even people who aren't necessarily raised in that evangelical culture, just our society in general here in the United States, has this way of telling us that we're born to do one great thing, and to do that one great thing for our entire lives. And if we don't know what that great thing is, it's because we're dropping the ball somewhere and we're missing the mark. And if we would just, try harder, we could discover what that great thing is, and we could fulfill our life's mission. Now, as an adult, I still carried that belief for a while, but as I got older and I experienced more of life outside of the evangelical circles I was raised in, and just life in general, I began to realize something. A lot of us, I would say probably most of us, don't ever have this sense that we're called, that's another Christianese thing, that we're given this one great mission in life to fulfill. Like this one thing we're supposed to be doing, and once we discover this one thing, that's what we're going to do for the rest of our lives, in one way or another. Most of us don't have that. Most of us kind of float through life doing what comes along. And by that, I don't necessarily mean career-wise and so forth. What I mean is, we might have a career, and we might have, a vision for what we want our lives to be. But most of us also have to, just by the nature of existing, kind of take things as they come. And that's true in life, and I think that's also true with this idea of mission and purpose. I read a book years ago by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. And I don't remember much about the book, to be honest with you, but I do remember this one part where he was discussing this idea of having one grand purpose for our lives. And what a lie that actually is, because most of us don't experience that. And the gist of what he said that I can remember was, your purpose is to do what's in front of you right at the moment. Your purpose might change from day to day. It might change from moment to moment. Your purpose in your life is going to be different based on where you are in your life at a given time, what needs to happen in your life at a given time, what the times call for. So this idea that, you're born with a singular purpose, and you have to carry out that you have to, first of all, you have to discover it, and then you have to live that for the rest of your life, and that this is a normal and good thing, and that if you're not doing this, somehow you're lacking. I just don't believe that anymore, and I haven't believed it for quite some time. So my thought is this, and my question is this: how many people have these amazing gifts that have never seen the light of day because they have been told that what they're doing or what they would like to do, unless it's part of a larger purpose, a larger mission, that it doesn't have any value. I suspect probably a lot of people feel this way. And it's very sad because I wonder how much we miss out on because there are people who just feel like what they have to contribute is not valuable because it doesn't have that sense of larger purpose to it. And in America, let's be honest, a lot of us are told if we can't monetize what we're doing, it's not worth doing. And I am here to heartily disagree with that. I do these videos, and these videos are being done in response to months spent in front of a camera taking pictures of the makeup that I've been putting on since quarantine started all those months ago. I don't know what I was doing there. When COVID-19 hit, and I've shared this in previous videos, so please forgive me for repeating myself. But when COVID-19 hit, it started off as a joke that I would do makeup every day because when we weren't in quarantine, I never wore makeup, and I thought, how funny would that be if I started wearing makeup as kind of a response to everyone's posts about how good it feels to not have to put on makeup and stuff to go to work because they can work from home. Except for when they're doing Zoom calls with their teams and whatnot. But I thought, oh, that's so funny because I never wear makeup, so I think during quarantine I'll start. And then a friend said it would be funny to do this every day. And then what I found was the response to my doing my makeup every day was so powerful. Not so much, even though I did hear this, but it wasn't so much about people telling me, oh, your makeup looks amazing, that's awesome. It was more about people telling me, you are giving me confidence to do things that I don't normally do. You're encouraging me to take risks and really own the look that I want to create for myself without worrying too much about what other people think of it. And that was awesome for me. So these videos are being done in response to that. I'm just kind of expanding on what I'm already doing. I am not making a penny off of this, but let me tell you something. I really believe that for this time in my life, this is part of my purpose. And why is that? Well, it's because we're in a time when encouragement, good news and encouragement and things that make us forget for a while that the world is burning down, those things are in short supply right now. And we just have to take them where we can find them, right? And knowing that my pictures and my videos are helping people find confidence they did not realize they had, and find courage they didn't realize they had, and to feel hopeful in the middle of a time that can feel so dark, that to me feels very purposeful. That to me feels like a mission. It doesn't matter that I can't monetize it. It doesn't matter that it's not part of a larger mission in my life right now. What matters is right now, on this day in 2020, this is what I'm doing, and this is what matters. And so my question to you is, my challenge to you really, is if you are at a point in your life, especially, I think this is especially true for people who grew up in religious environments, and you're feeling like you're just missing the mark entirely because you don't have this grand sense of purpose that you carry around with you regarding this specific thing that you're supposed to be doing, and you just know it's what you were put on this earth to do. If you're feeling as if you're failing because you don't have that, I want to challenge you to really examine why that is. Is it because you're doing things that you love that you can't monetize? Is it because you're not doing things you love and you're investing instead in what you think you, quote, should be doing, and it's not bringing you any joy? Why do you feel that way? Because I would venture to say that any time in my life when I have felt that way, it's because I was doing what I thought I should do. Now, I will admit, again, I do have the privilege of being able to do this. Not everybody is in a position where they can pursue the things they want to pursue without too much thought for time it's going to take away from the business of surviving. I am fortunate in that I don't have that concern, and all I had to do to get to the place of not having that concern was get cancer that, you know, the treatments for which left my health forever altered. That's all I had to do. It was really easy. You know, you too can have this very laid back way of living if you go that route. Anyway, but sometimes the reason why we feel like we're missing the mark is not because we can't do the things that we want to do, but because we're afraid to, because we've been told either those things are not valid, because we can't monetize them, they're not valid because, you know, they're not part of a larger mission that we have in mind, and so on and so forth. There are all kinds of reasons why people will tell us that what we want doesn't matter, but I'm here to tell you they are lying to you. What you want does matter. So what can you do to bring yourself closer to fulfilling those purposes that you have in mind? What can you do to really start living the life that you want to live? And that's a scary thing. And I think that one of the reasons it's scary is because, again, with this idea of what our lives are, quote, supposed to look like. Oh, I forgot to put my magnifying mirror on there. And I'm like, why can't I see my eyebrows? Well, that's why, Stephanie. You know, there's this notion that if we're not going to make a lot of money doing it, why do it? And then when we say, I'm going to make my life the way I want it to be, you know, I'm going to create the life I want. Well, we think about these Instagram posts where, you know, all the junk has been edited out of the picture, or the camera has been moved, been positioned in such a way that you don't see the garbage all around the area that's being photographed. And we have this idea of what making the life I want for myself should look like, when the reality is making the life we want for ourselves usually happens in very small steps, and it happens in small things that we do. It's usually not one grand sweeping thing that we do that says, you know, great, I created the life I want. No, usually it's small stuff. It's taking 5 minutes a day to just do some deep breathing so we can decompress and be less stressed out. It's allowing ourselves the time to read a book that we think might help us more fully develop the idea of what kind of a life we want. And I think a lot of us don't do that. We live in a culture that is always go, 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 and somehow we have this notion that if we're not constantly busy all the time, it means we're wasting our lives. And that's not true either. So I think the biggest obstacle to people fulfilling purpose is, first of all, this idea of what purpose is. I really believe most of us carry out a million tiny missions all throughout our lifetime, rather than one grand mission that we were put on this earth to do. Most of us don't live that way. Sure, a few do, but they are the exception. They are not the rule. And the sooner we can acknowledge that and accept that, the better off we'll be, because I really feel for those who are stuck in this idea that they have nothing to offer because they don't have a grand sweeping plan for their life that, you know, they can use to define the next 20, 30, 40 years of their existence. Because here's the reality of it. Even if you did have that, life has a way of handing you stuff you did not expect that can easily thwart anything you thought you were going to be doing. I did not think that at 31 years old I was going to have cancer. And that changed everything about my life. You know, I'm 45 years old now, so this was a long time ago that I had my diagnosis and my treatments, but it changed my life forever because it forever altered the way my body functions. I mean, you know, I live with things now that I never had to think about before I had cancer. So it was easy for me before cancer to say, yep, this is what I'm going to do with my life. You know, and even back then I didn't have any huge plans, and I felt like a total and complete loser because I didn't have huge plans. But even if I would have, it wouldn't have mattered because I had something come at me from out of nowhere and change everything. So, I don't know. I just feel like that's an important thing to discuss because I see so many people who have these amazing gifts, and they might share them on social media and be like, oh, this is just the dumb thing I like to do to pass the time. It's not a big thing. And then people start telling them, no, this is a big thing. This is beautiful. Or this is amazing that you do this, or however they want to verbalize it. And the person is very quick to say, oh, it's nothing. It's really not that big of a deal. It's really nothing. And quick to dismiss it because it's not something that they've been able to make count in the way we're told things count. So it felt like it was important for me to say that today. My purpose today is to do this video and talk to you. Maybe you'll learn something cool from it. Maybe you're watching how I do my makeup and you're like, oh, I want to try that. Maybe you're listening to what I'm saying about purpose and you're like, you know what? I've been crapping all over myself for years because I don't think anything I do counts. And here's this woman on YouTube singing songs and telling me that what I do does matter, even though it's not what everybody else thinks I should be doing. Maybe I should listen to this strange person on YouTube with the bald head and the eyeshadow and listen to what she has to say. You know, it's just a thought. Yeah. So that's all. That's pretty much what I had on my mind today. What's on your mind today? So we all wake up with stuff on our minds. What's on your mind today? And I shouldn't say wake up. I've been up for quite a while, but this is like, it takes me a while to get going in the morning. So, you know, I'm up for a while before I'm ready to sit down and do this thing. Takes me some time to get there, guys and gals and people of all genders and so forth and whatnot. I tried to do this yesterday and it didn't work well, so I'm trying a slightly different technique today. Yesterday I covered my whole lid in a gold color and then started applying the purple, and it didn't look as amazing as I wanted it to, so I'm trying something a little bit different today. So if you don't know, I do have a podcast as well. We do not discuss makeup on there usually whatsoever. My podcast is related to my life as a recovering evangelical, a former evangelical, a post-evangelical, a non-religious person, having been raised in evangelicalism and now not being religious at all. I have a lot of stuff to sort through, and I've been sorting through it for a long time, so it's not like I'm just starting this, but I did notice a need for further discussion of it. So I started this podcast. Now last season, because I'm starting to record for the second season this Friday, last season I focused a lot on telling stories of people who were also raised in evangelicalism and allowing people, you know, giving people a place to come and share their story, which I think is important. But a lot of the focus last season was about shared trauma. And one thing I know is there's only so much healing rehashing these things can provide. And I've really veered away from associating too heavily with the community that kind of started this whole discussion about being, you know, a former evangelical and so forth. Because one thing I found to be true for myself is continually talking about how badly I've been wounded and how much I have to be angry about is not conducive to healing. And I think this is true for any group of survivors. So don't think that this is exclusive to the formerly evangelical folks. It's not. I think that it's a challenge in any group of survivors to discuss our traumas in a way that's actually helpful. You know, it's one thing to need to be heard. I get that. We all want to be validated We all want to know that no, we did not imagine what happened to us. It really did happen. No matter what gaslighting people want to tell us, it really did happen to us, and we are justifiably upset. You know, and there is genuine trauma to be worked through. I think there is value in that. However, I also think that in a lot of survivor communities that I have been part of, and I've been part of a few, the emphasis on constantly revisiting the trauma sometimes it does more harm than good, because it keeps people trapped in that place where they are only ever a victim, not a survivor. They never move beyond that place of, I was traumatized and this is the thing that happened to me and it's terrible and I don't know how to live with it. And especially in, you know, I'll speak specifically about the evangelical or the former evangelical community because that's what I'm most familiar with, but I think this can be applied to a lot of things. When that trauma happened to us at the hands of people in power, whether that was our parents, whether that was, you know, a spouse or, you know, a significant other, whether that was a pastor or whatever the case may be, if we're constantly being reminded of all the reasons we have to be angry, and I mean being reminded beyond a point of it being therapeutic to talk about it, okay? I'm not talking about having it validated and saying, yes, you're justifiably angry. I'm talking about our entire identity, sometimes for years at a time, being wrapped up in, I experienced this terrible thing, and I'm going to keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. I think that happens a lot in survivor groups, and I've seen it a lot in the former evangelical community, and I haven't seen it be especially helpful over the long term. When all of your relationships are based on trauma, you know, when you've trauma bonded with people who you're associating with only because they experienced the same trauma you did, I think that it gets to a point where it's no longer helpful, and it can in fact be harmful because it keeps people trapped in that cycle of abuse, even if it's passively, because you're still giving those who abused you that power in your life. You're still saying, you get to have the final say on what I do because I'm still giving you this space. So all of that said, with my podcast and with my life in general, I have chosen to focus instead on what are we doing now. And again, this gets back to the idea of purpose. My purpose for my first season was to give people a voice, to, you know, give especially people who might not have felt that they fit in with the in crowd in that community I was just mentioning, because unfortunately that does happen. You know, I wanted to give people a place to come to discuss what they've experienced. But now I feel like it's important at this point in our lives, in my life and in what's happening in the world, to say, okay, what are we doing now, as we are right now, to navigate these times we're living in? And, you know, maybe our former life informs how we do that, you know, but not from a place of trauma, but from a place of triumph and being survivors, and knowing that, you know, we have a very clear idea now of what's right and what's wrong, and that's how we proceed. So that's kind of what I want to focus on with this next season that I've got coming up for my podcast. I've already got some amazing people lined up, and I'll leave a link for the podcast in the description. I'm just kind of talking right now because we were talking about purpose and finding our purpose as life unfolds. My purpose is to be an encourager. I've been through a lot of things in my life, and the specifics of my purpose have changed over time, and they will continue to change over time for as long as I'm alive. But I really feel like my mission in life, if I have to have one, is to take the things I've been through and use it to encourage other people. And that's what I want to do with my podcast. That's what I want to do with these videos. Because if I have any message for anyone, it is that, you know, whatever terrible things have happened to us, they are not the end of the road. They do not get to define how we live out the rest of our existence. And I think that's very important to understand, especially for people who are coming out of an entire culture that was traumatizing. Knowing that those things do not have to have the last word, they don't get to have the final say. That's important, because it can feel so hopeless and discouraging otherwise, and you feel like you're always going to be stuck in this place where you're just traumatized again and again, if by nothing else, you know, than the memories of what you've been through. So I don't want to continue rehashing people's stories of trauma. There are lots of places that do that. What I want to do is find out from people, how have you moved forward? And in these very unprecedented times we're living in, what are you doing now? That's my mission. All right. So to save you from my endless babbling as I finish this look, I don't know, maybe I'll do it off camera. Or would you prefer that I do it on camera? I don't know, because I really don't want to bore you with incessant talking. But I do have a few more things I need to do on my eyes before they're finished. So I don't know. I guess I'll just stay on camera, and if that was just too much and it's too boring, just let me know. And I will never, ever do it again. Because again, this is not a makeup tutorial. This is just me putting on makeup. Two very different things. Very different things. So when I'm done with this, my purpose is what? What's your purpose today? If you had to say anything about today, if you had to pick one thing today to call your purpose, what would it be? And I don't mean what are you doing. I mean, what is your purpose? Why are you doing it? If you're cleaning your house today, why are you cleaning your house? Is it to create a safe and welcoming home for yourself and your family? And by your family, it can mean, you know, you and your partner and children. It can mean you and your cats. It can mean you and yourself. There are all kinds of ways to define a family. I just want to make that clear. So what is your purpose? Ooh, this is looking so much better than it did yesterday. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Okay. Much, much, much better. I'm happy, happy, happy with this. Never in my life have I said happy, happy, happy. See, this is what happens when I just ramble. Alright. So I'm going to do my eyeliner, and then I am going to get off camera to apply my... Okay, so I'm back and I'm finished with my face. Anyway, I hope that if nothing else today gives you some encouragement to pursue your purposes in life as they present themselves. I mean, you know what you need to do today, and you know what your purpose is today, and really that's what matters. We're not, you know, we can't live in the past and we can't live in the future. All we have is right now, and as long as you're doing what you need to be doing right now, that's enough. So thank you so much for being here today and for listening to my rambling and my singing and my many thoughts on many things. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time. Bye.